Okay, we are glad to have you stay with us on the program this morning on ITV. Lovely Monday morning, and we'll get into the heart of our conversation segment today as we talk about the Niger Delta question. That's one question that has been on for decades and will continue to be that way until the needful is done. But when that will be, I really can't tell. But one thing is certain is that the region is the goose that laid the golden eggs, and of course it looks like it's not getting the attention that it deserves. That seems to be the basis for the agitation. But those agitations in recent times have been heightened again by virtue of what transpired recently when in Zamfara State, the governor, came out with blocks of gold mined in the state, which they sold or they plan to sell to the Central Bank of Nigeria. And that raised an uproar, particularly in the Niger Delta. The likes of Governor Wike came out to say, look, if Zamfara State can mine its gold, then Niger Delta State should be allowed to mine their oil as well. That brings equity, that brings transparency, that brings fairness into the politics. So that's a major talking point, looking at the challenge of resource governance and ethnic agitations. I've got with me here in the studio the Executive Director of African Network for Environment and Economic Justice. He's been in the civil society movement, engineering policies and initiatives as it relates to what is the ideal way to deal with the Niger Delta question. And he's been very extensive in his work as well as it relates to the fight against corruption and the best model to be adopted. I'd like to welcome very specially Reverend David Ogolo, Executive Director, African Network for Environment and Economic Justice. He's also a member of the Presidential Committee on Disposal of Assets. That became a very thorny issue with the whole issue of recovered loots, and which some say in the process of being recovered, they end up being relooted. So the question that came up that, okay, now we're recovering these assets, we're recovering these monies, there's the need to have an agency that will midwife how these assets and these loots are disposed or distributed, or distributed in such a way that they can have direct meaning in the lives of the people. So this and lots more will be x-raying in the next couple of minutes. Many thanks for joining us, and congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Well, the Niger Delta question has been a raging question for so many years. But just when you think that maybe efforts are being made in the direction of addressing the key challenges, and then somewhere, somehow, the agitations starts brewing up. Let's talk about it in terms of, is it more of a leadership challenge in the region, or is it a reflection of the larger Nigerian society, where people say there's so much of inequality, there's so much of lack of transparency, and then we have a situation wherein the resource in the region is being manned by those who apparently don't live in the region, don't belong to the region. What are your thoughts?
Again, thank you again, Sonny Duke, for the opportunity to participate in this conversation that is very, very important in moving forward in some of the issues that is affecting the region. Well, two things that come out very clearly. You know, the issue of Zamfara mining their gold and selling it to the central bank is very political, and you should have been surprised if the certain governors, particularly the Niger Delta governor, did not respond, particularly when they are of different political party, and then there is some political difference. But what are the issues that are coming out from it is ultimately, for everything that happened in this country, we should begin to look for results, because at the end of the day, if there is two political conversations that doesn't lead to result, we waste resources and we waste time. And time waits for no one. And so what is the real problem in the country is that we seem to be coming from a point in time where after Nigeria was colonized, power was handed over to a set of people. And those set of people continue to sustain power in a way that they use different instruments to maintain that power. And unfortunately, what drives that power is that the source of income that runs the country from 60s to this point in time is natural resources that government have cleverly used constitution, legal framework to extract it from the owners of the property, of the resources. And prior before oil became the major source of income for the government, agriculture was playing a major role and different regions were in control. But as soon as oil was discovered in 1958, then the constitution reversed that dimension. And it became very easy for political elite to sustain power because their resources to run government was not depending on the taxpayers' money. Because when the taxpayer are responsible for the major chunk of money that runs government, they will be more interested how government is run. But today, because every state, the 36 states in Nigeria, inclusive of the Niger Delta states, their major source of income that they run the government with doesn't come from taxpayer. It comes from monthly allocation, particularly in the Niger Delta. So it's easier for the governors in the region not to explain to the people how their money is spent. As a matter of fact, governors appropriate the spending of this money and see it as doing good for the people. Yeah, you know, you see sometimes that I have built road, I have done this, I have done this, I have built school. And when you see governors speaking, not just the region alone, across the country, you assume that maybe it is private money he has brought from his private business or from his family that he's spending for the people. And so the issue of principal-agent relationship, the governor is supposed to be the agent of the people. But for the few years now, that relationship has been reversed. Rather than the governor becoming agent to the people, he has become the principal because he decides where the people's money is spent. The governor decides who gets road. The governor decides who gets school. And so there is no appropriate governance framework on how public resources is spent. And this largely has sustained the kind of power. And this is as a result of power asymmetry and what is largely responsible for the resource cost phenomenon in the region. When there is a formation asymmetry between the agent and the principal, and what that means by that is that the amount of information that the governor have about the resources, the people don't have it. And the people are not aware how the governor spends this money. And so because this lack of information, the governors within the region are able to manipulate. And so what they do, the methodology they adopt in distributing this money has created inequality. And so there are few people who benefit from time to time. Those set of people becomes an appendages within the government, and the governor uses that to consolidate his power. And then there is inequality in the society, and that's what we have found out across the Niger Delta region. And it's not about one political party, either PDP or APC. It's across the board.
Okay.
And it's not about north or south. It's not about Hausa or Yoruba. All this is across the country. The level of poverty in the north is the same level of poverty in the south. The difference is that maybe the level of poverty in the northeast part of the country is higher. And the northern political elite have been able to use their religion, the Muslim. You know, once one particular person arises in a region, he even, sometimes you see all the political leaders, the name of the local government, he appropriate it. If like Ovia now, if your name, you are from which local government, you are from Ovia, your name now will not be Sonny Duke Ovia. So, and if you found that all the political leaders in the north, they have appropriated the local government of, so they see government asset as their personal asset. And unfortunately, like I said, information asymmetry between the principal and agent. The people are not empowered with the right information. When they are empowered with the right information, that will be reversed. And that's the problem and challenge we have faced in the country. But in moving forward, in challenging the current reality, it is not about engaging with violence. I don't subscribe that you can confront the current reality with violence. It's to come up with an alternative model that will help explain that the current structure that we operate on is not beneficial to even those who claim that they are benefiting. If you found that the political elite It's time from time to time. You see a man who was a commissioner today, he will not bother to care about how the system is run because it benefits him and his family
directly.
But after 4 years or 8 years, he's out of power. You suddenly you see him become an activist, and he becomes very friendly. I understand say that. So some of us who have always been on this side, they say, "Oh, ban on the go transfer." For over 30 years, I have watched closely political elite. They are funny characters. When they are in power, when they are benefiting from the system, they don't have a problem. They don't know whether roads are tied. They don't know whether there are drugs in the hospital. They don't care because they have access to government opportunity. But oftentimes, our God is very faithful. At most, if you spend too much time in power, 16 years, 20 years. But the consequence, well, as soon as you step out of power, even if you have stolen billions, it will stare on your face. So in moving forward, rather than looking for confronting the current reality that we are faced with, because the current political elite have built an extractive institution. And what I mean by extractive institution is that that's the difference between a nation that is developing and a nation that is not developing. When you have a political elite who have no idea on how to create wealth, all they need, the whole idea they have is on how to take out of the system. They cannot create system. For example, when you look at those states as a whole now, from the last 10 years, how many politicians have been able to come with an idea to create an industry? And one of the problems that's leading to contention in governance in Edo State and other states across the region is who is in control of access to wealth.
Who has access to the wealth?
That's the problem. And as a matter of fact, governors' attentions is appropriated for who benefits. So those who create wealth, for example, if you take for example in Edo State, who are the people who create wealth? Are people like Uyi Technicals, Bobizwa. These are the people who are creating wealth in the state. But do government pay attention to them? Do they invite them? But in an advanced country, the governor will spend time with this set of people that create wealth. But what you have seen is the reverse of the case. The Uyi Technical of this world doesn't have space to governance. The GT, you remember when we were in Ekpoma, GT started like a small pocket, like a small, you remember?
Yeah.
In Ekpoma.
Yeah.
But today, GT is a big brand. You can imagine if a Edo State government decides to support GT, it can become a global brand. And when it's a global brand, what happened? The wealth of GT comes straight to Ekpoma. Because naturally the owner
is from Ekpoma.
It's from Ekpoma. A very gentleman, great man, who would like to plow back as corporate social responsibility. Like you have CNN today.
Yeah.
Naturally, the wealth of CNN goes back to America. Like you have Facebook today. Every time you click your Facebook, the wealth goes back to America. Are you seeing it?
Yeah.
But we live in a country where our political elite, they don't run governance on the basis of merit. And the way the European hand over to the political elite in the 60s are largely responsible. The governors are looking for people he can control and manipulate. His basis for nominating commissioners and political advisors is not on the basis of what they can produce. He wants to see people he can easily manipulate, people he can easily talk down. So each time they want to give an appointment, either you have a certificate problem, or there's a godfather who has said that I can guarantee he will not oppose you. So when you now do an appointment on governance on a basis like this, you don't expect anything good from it. A tree that is not properly brought up cannot give a good fruit. So this is largely responsible for the reason why the political elite from the region have not been able to produce anything that is definitely good for the society. So my take is that the leadership challenge that we face in the country has now led to a bad follower. That to the extent that we are all part of this problem. Because you cannot become a councillor today on the basis because you are contributing to the value. For example, the young men and women that are working daily in Edo State, for example, as civil society, working, contributing to good values to ensure that there is a good governance. If they indicate interest to contest election today, you will be surprised and embarrassed they will not be voted for. So he wonders that, what is wrong with the society? Why would they not look for good people and reputable people to contest election to win? So that's why I feel that the recent election that has happened in Edo State is helping us to redirect the conversation, and that can also help impact what happened in neighboring state, Delta, Bayelsa, River State. What happens is mind-boggling. So there is a governance challenge. And I am sure that even the governors, they don't even enjoy it because they are not free. The governors are not free. They are not free. I have been privileged to have traveled widely. I see how those in power are free. Their children are free. But sometimes you try to envy to become a governor, but it's not the best thing to do, I can tell you. These governors are not free. They are in chain. This so-called member you think got an appointment, they are in chain. They are not free. And because the reason, when you live in a society where only few, less than 1% are controlling the weight of the society, 99% are living in a bad state, you cannot expect the 1% to be in peace. And that's exactly what we have found out in Niger Delta. Now, let's look very thoroughly the way governors have managed public resources in the Niger Delta states. Point one state where public resources is properly managed. There is none. There is a problem. It is not about north-south issue. You know, people try to tell us that you need to divide the country. You need to restructure the country. Get the best structural reform in Nigeria. If you have the same set of people that run the country now, nothing will happen. So what we need to do is that it's for us to be honest with ourselves. If you look past political leaders who have run this country, mismanaged this country, point to where they are now. You know, there are some money you don't need really. There are some wealth you don't really need. When you have excessive wealth as a politician, you destroy the future life of your children. Because when a child, I grew up from a very less privileged background, but it's an inspiration to me. It inspires me. If you bring up children and you don't allow them to think, they will become fooled. And that's why you see that God is faithful. That politicians, I say some politicians, who have amassed wealth, undermine the system. God has also punished them by way that their children will not live well. Most of the children live on drugs. Because when you allow your family to only have access to free money, they grow up in
with that mentality and consciousness.
Exactly. And when you are, and ironically, a politician who lives on public resources all over his life, he doesn't have creativity to think, to do business. All he knows his life is free access to money. And so because he doesn't think, what you don't have, you cannot give to your family. And so the family grow up in a way that they cannot do other thing. They cannot do another thing. That's why they can do anything to remain in politics. But as soon as God takes them out of the way, what happened? The consequence before the family, before the children. Can you point to any politicians of the 60s, in the 70s? Point to their children. Where are their children?
Okay, Nicola, let's just look at the Niger Delta question. There's been this consensus of opinion that, just like you said a while ago, that the bigger part of the problem is about leadership in the region. And that explains why a whole lot of projects that ought to be at the front burner in terms of execution, they are lying fallow. Take, for example, the East-West Road. What is the situation, in your opinion, about that, or in terms of government response with all the huge resources coming out from the region?
There's a contention for access for resources. The people, the contractors who got the contract to do the East-West Road, they are not from the move. It's our brothers. It's our brothers. East-West Road contract was not given to Europeans. It's our people. And there's nothing wrong about that. You see, our mindset about wealth is destructive. It's damaging. So the East-West Road contract was given to contractors. As we speak today, it is not a foreigner that is the minister of Niger Delta. It's Akpabio. It's from the region. The minister for petroleum is not from Sokoto. It's the former governor of Bayelsa State. The minister for transport, Amechi, is from River State. The former chairman of APC, Adam Oshomole, is from Edo State. These guys were in power What do they use the power to do? So we should stop blaming the North. The North is not our problem. Sovereign National Conference is not our problem. You see, because as a medical doctor, if you have a patient in your clinic, if you don't carry out the right diagnosis, your prescription will go wrong. So our problem in the region is our people. You see, people are angry to go into power, not for the purpose to help the public good. You see, the poverty mentality of our people. You know, I was reading a while ago, is it $10, the daughter, a multi-billionaire daughter. He said he's not happy. People are empty spiritually. People think that when you have money, it brings happiness. People think that when you are a governor, you are a happy person. It is not true. You can be a farmer and be a better person than the governor. Yes. So the problem of East-West Road is that we have got a set of leadership who has failed the region. And do you know what most essential? For example, APC is the current leading country today. And I mentioned Oshomole was the chairman of APC. Amechi is the was Minister for Transport. The governor of Bayelsa State. These are all APC leaders. Akpabio moved away from PDP and went to APC. You saw how these 4 people and 5 people, they couldn't come together. As we speak now, the Deputy Senate President is from the South, a Delta state. Now, why do you think they couldn't come together? It tells you the kind of character they are made of. As we speak, APC is running 8 years government. There's not one single government, federal government presence in the region. And I'm not sure that Buhari has ever visited in the last 1 or 2 years. You see how people can be unfaithful to their people. Do you blame Buhari? You have got crop of political elite who has failed their people.
But they say there's some element of divide and rule tactics.
Oh my God!
Yes, that seems to bring a lot of division within the sector, within the region, amongst the people.
Excuse me, if you choose to expose yourself, you put yourself in trouble. If you have political leaders who are not properly, they don't know what the problem is that people want to go into power for a purpose they don't understand. You know, I am so happy that you announced this a while ago. You know, when I received the appointment from the president as a member of the committee, first I asked myself, I didn't lobby for it. You know, to get an appointment from the president in Nigeria, you need to know 1 or 2 people. I didn't. Now, what is the expectation? I see some people that we must celebrate to, and I respond very politely. What are you celebrating? Because don't expect anything from me. Don't expect it. It's the same way David Ogolo that you are seeing in Mogumehi and everywhere that you will see be saying. Hello, did you hear that?
Yes.
So, and that's how it starts. As soon as you get an appointment, you see all kind of people come around. If you are not clear-headed, the same characters are the same people that are also going to tag your name negatively. So it's to have a clarity of purpose. What is the clarity of purpose? Why did I accept the appointment? What am I going to achieve? Is it in line with what I've been doing for the last 30 years? I went to England to study corruption. My major thesis was focused on how to manage assets. And today in the country, I'm one of the leading experts in the part of this world on asset recovery. So it falls in line. So when I got the appointment, I said, yes, so I want to put what I've been talking about into practice. And what do I need to do? Is to be able to encourage along the entire civil society, because I'm representing civil society in the committee, that everything that goes on, I must update. And that's one of my conditions I put on the table. And that from time to time, I will be briefing Nigerians what is going on in the committee. And I suggested we must sign a conflict of interest form, so that when you have an interest in an optioneer, don't participate in where the negotiation will be taking place. So this is how countries should be run. But what we have had in the region is that the political elite in Nigeria, in Niger Delta, they have not been able to come together. They still believe that when they amass wealth for themselves, they will continue to control power for a long time. Who are you looking for power for? Your children? Unfortunately, that's not how world is structured.
Yeah.
Let me explain to you. Look, the people that are in power today in Nigeria. Look, Obaseki as the governor of Edo State. His father wasn't a governor of Edo State. Oshomole was a governor of Edo State. I'm sure nobody knows about his father. He emerged from nowhere and became governor and chairman of a political party. People play God in people's life. Play God in people's life. God will decide the next generation of power. So no amount of resources you will steal now, even the lands that you buy. Take GRA for example. The first set of people that own GRA, but now he has now moved to a different set of people.
Yeah, and it keeps moving.
The set of people that will come to buy GRA again, they are still in Igobazwa. Hello, did you hear me?
They're still in Ekpoma.
They're still in Ekpoma. I know you need some from Ekpoma as well.
All right, let's quickly cap this up. The former EFCC chairman has been going through a lot with the investigation and interrogation on recovered assets and how those assets were in some cases relooted, and then the seeming disparity between amount of money recovered and what was actually declared within the region of about let me not say something because I don't want to quote it, I don't want to go out of context, but there's a disparity. And then you also have that as a major challenge. What do you make of the current travails of Ibrahim Magu as we speak? Someone else is acting there as EFCC chairman.
As part of my own position is that the government has set up a committee to look into the issues raised by the AG, the Attorney General, about Magu as the chairman, acting chairman of EFCC.
Okay.
And the committee have since submitted their report to the president. Although we have got some snippets from the report. Of
the content of the report, yeah.
I would like to wait until the report is put in the public domain.
Okay.
It will be wrong to speculate. But the issue that is demanding answer from Nigerians is that all the assets forfeited to the federal government are lying waste across the country need to be sold and presented to the public. The public wants to see that those assets becomes wealth for the country. And our committee is mandated by the president to look into all those assets across the country, running into trillions of naira. How do you convert those assets to become source of income for the government? So that you don't see EFCC yard wasting with things that they have seized. And what is very clear is that EFCC as a law enforcement agent don't have the capacity to manage those assets. Law enforcement agencies that are involved in other criminal issues, they don't have the capacity to manage those assets. So those assets, they should not be allowed to waste across the country. So our committee is mandated to look into way to sell those assets that are already forfeited to the government and ensure that that resources go into the central bank and becomes an income for the government. Having said that, let me also clarify this issue because it's the starting point of our conversation here about Zamfara selling gold to the central bank and why not the Niger Delta also control their assets. All over the world, that's the best practice all over the world. But like I said, when you have political elite that is already used to particular free money, they don't think outside the box. So you cannot tell political elite that, oh, this revenue that is coming from oil wealth now suddenly will not be, the governors will not be in control or the region will not be in control. What will the federal depend on? Because they don't think that, they don't know that the future will not depend on oil. Yeah. That the future now, the source of revenue, look, Facebook for example, the total wealth of Facebook is more than Nigeria put together, Nigerian wealth that we are making from oil. Just a few weeks ago, I was reading Zoom. Zoom was established not up to a year or two. Yeah. The total wealth of Zoom now, as a company, is more than that of ExxonMobil. So you can see that we are now in a knowledge economy. Yeah. Natural resources doesn't play any role any longer. What plays a role is the brain. So human capital development is very important. That's why I must commend the Edo State government for moving towards investment in human capital development. And then the governor trying to look alternative to the electricity. That's how you fight bad system. You move away, and I must commend Obaseki. You know, that's why I feel Obaseki is providing an enabling environment for people to be creative. Now, he wants to provide 24-hour access to electricity. That's fantastic. He's also creating an opportunity for internet access by ensuring that cable optics is available in Edo State.
Yeah.
My God, when you say you want to create an enabling environment, that's the way to go. That's the future. And once Edo State creates that enabling environment and invest in human capital development, I can tell you, you produce the right people that will be able to take control of the 21st century economy. Those governments that are still depending on oil, they don't know what is happening. We're already moving to green technology. Oil will become obsolete. Natural resources that they think that will be the source of driving government. But unfortunately, those who depend on this obsolete source of income they don't see the future. But I think that governors that are smart should begin to look to the future and see how we can begin to adopt the opportunities that are available so that we can at least leapfrog our economy. And there are people that develop. And then this extractive system that makes only 1% of our population to be enjoying the fruit of the labor of this entire region can move, and we can reverse the inequality. For example, I come from a place called Ogara. Ogara Junction has said, for the past 5 years, they've not had electricity. How do you expect the people to develop? Why will you not see criminals? The people are cursed. The only land that they have, the federal government through the military have taken the land away from them. Electricity that the government provides, the people for 5 years, they've not seen electricity. So how do you expect Ogara to develop? Why will you not see armed robber blocking the road all the time? So you can see. And all the port, all the seaport in the region that could transform. As a young growing boy in Sapele those days, Sapele seaport was, it was the scenario of any industrialist. But do you know what has happened? The emergence of this new political elite, they've killed the seaport in Sapele, they've killed the seaport in Warri, they have damaged everything in the region. Now, massive road transport system, all those heavy-duty vehicles going through the east-west road has damaged the road. Most of those heavy-duty vehicles could have been passing through the sea from Lagos, take away through Sapele to Warri to Port Harcourt. And that can really regrow the economy. Yeah. But you have a situation where you have governors, you have presidents who should come together and begin to think on how to adopt a blue economy system where the water that God has blessed us with can be used. But do you know what has happened? In the last few months, we have seen the government trying to take control of the water. So all the thinking of political elite in the country is how to possess, how to grab. And that's the consequence of living an extractive system. But if you live in a system that contributes, what can we add to the system? And that's why I encourage the governor, particularly as Governor Obaseki is starting his second tenure now, he should look out for the UI technicals of this world. He should look out for people like Bobizwa. These are people who are creating wealth. Forget about PDP and APC. He should write his name in the book of record here. Okay. And that's the way to go in Nigeria. Just
the last one, Vigolo. I mean, the country just announced second recession,
yes,
which is a major fallout of COVID-19. What are your perspectives?
Exactly. That's the consequence of the COVID. And then government, there's going to be COVID-induced poverty across the country because the kind of work system that is available now, because of COVID, there's been really big impact on countries that depend on natural resources. Like countries like US, because of the hospitality business, they were no longer depending on oil to import into US, and that have affected us as a country. And so our major source of income in the country, over 95% of our foreign exchange comes from oil. And now because the demand has slowed down, obviously because of COVID impact, it has affected us. Now, how do we move forward? I'm happy that even the Edo State government have also reprioritized their investment. It's for we again to look inward. And that's part of the reason why Buhari has also constituted our committee, because they are now looking beyond oil as a source of income.
Okay.
And they are saying that something like all those assets that is lying waste across the country can become a source of wealth. Also too, with South-South governors, they should look back again. Do you know how much they spend to maintain the so-called governor's office? And all these amounts they spend in security that people are not aware is huge. And who are the people spending? It's not just the governors alone. The traditional rulers, top pastors, they are all benefiting from it. But unfortunately, the consequence when it comes is the governor that takes it. And so my appeal to governors, be careful, spend the public money in public good. So that when you step out of power, at least you can say, This is how I utilized the opportunity that was made available to me. And we should also, as nation, we should not expect, look, nobody gives you freedom. You work for it and you seize it. The Nigerian people, the Niger Delta people, the Edo people, you must rise up. You must not allow the establishment to delegitimize our street protest, to criminalize our action to demand for sanity and transparency. No governor will tell you that let's give them freedom to protest. Our right to protest must not be taken away from us. Governors will not naturally be transparent. We must always be on the street. And what has happened with the NSAS program, even as the government and the establishment try to make deliberate effort to criminalize the NSAS, but I think they are making a big mistake. Because we all know that the establishment has played a major role in trying to criminalize. And the narrative they are showing out is to delegitimize the NSAS struggle. And the NSAS struggle is not about the police. And even as we speak now, few policemen have come out, just driving the East-West Road. I see them collect money, even with all these issues. And so the issue is a big issue. So our people, we encourage them, don't allow establishment narrative discourage us, because liberty is not free. Even in the United States, you can see the election between the Republican and the Democrat. Yeah. You can see the struggle. What makes a society to be sane, it is the ability of the people to remain vigilant. And you can see how the U.S. institution. So that's why I tell you that the difference between U.S. and Nigeria is not that we don't have the people like Trump. We have Trumps in Nigeria. But what keeps people like Trump in control is the institution and the governance framework. And so those governance framework and institution depends on the ability of the people to continue to sustain it. And that's why once more again, I commend my friends and comrades in the struggle in Edo State. For what they are doing, they should continue doing it. They should not allow the establishment trying to criminalize them. They should never allow. The establishment will never be happy with you. They will always turn out narrative to undermine the struggle for justice. But what is ultimately good for the people is that those who fight for a better society, generation will remember them.
Thank you very much, Reverend David Ogolo. It's always a delight to have you here to ventilate your views on some of these burning national issues, looking at the Niger Delta question and then the challenge of disposal of recovered assets. Of course, congratulations once again being a member of the Presidential Committee on Assets Recovered and their Disposal. It's always a delight to have you. Hope next time we'll call on you to oblige us as usual.
Definitely.
It's the TMI Monday with yours sincerely, Sonny Duke Okosun.